Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another exciting, scintillating, and riveting episode of Pete's Ghias. And in this video, I'm going to do a rundown of Karmann Ghia vent control and vents, what they're all about, and how to install them in your Karmann Ghia. Check it out. Okay, so here we have all the components of the vent system that goes under the dash. This controls the flow of fresh air from the intake nostrils in the front of the Ghia. And air also comes in from the bottom of this, through this vent from the heater channel. There's a vertical pipe that comes up from the floor, goes through the bottom of the dash and into the trunk. This controls the flow of air from the nostrils up front, the air intake nostrils, and this is where either fresh air or heat will come out through the vents under the dash pad. So there's two of these, one for the left side of the car, one for the right side of the car. This is the vent control itself. You push this lever forward to turn it on, pull the lever backwards to turn it off. There's a short cable here that goes to the driver's side, and then this longer cable, very long, goes to the passenger side. You also have this gasket that I cut out, and this fits between the dash and the vent control. And these rubber gaskets are kind of like sleeves. They look like pieces of a bicycle inner tube, to be perfectly honest. And they fit between the ends of this vent and the three pipes that are under the dash and in the trunk area. There's two of these things. These are little clamps that hold the cable under the dash, and I got some new hardware, a new screw and a new nut because the old ones were rusted. The other thing of interest is these acorn nuts. This is the original acorn nut that secures the vent control underneath the dash, and this is a replacement acorn nut, and you can see that they have a very different shape. So if you're super picky and super anal about your Ghia, you'll make sure that you retain your original acorn nut, don't lose it, because you don't want this cheap hardware store acorn nut on your beautiful Ghia. And something to keep in mind is that when you take your Ghia apart, this is where the acorn nut attaches to the stud of the vent control. This comes through the bottom of the dashboard, and after 50 plus years, the nut could be rusted on there, so you want to heat that up, use some penetrating oil, and make sure it comes off easy, because if it breaks, you have to take this whole thing apart and dismantle it and then weld a new stud in there, which is kind of a pain in the neck. But chances are you're going to have to take this apart anyway, because on every unrestored Ghia I've ever looked at, this is always covered in rust. It has to be carefully disassembled, the levers cleaned, some of the hardware replaced and even painted, and you're going to have to lubricate it before you reassemble. So maybe I'll go over that in detail in another video. So what I'm doing right now is putting the rubber gasket on the bottom of the vent controller. The rubber gasket supposedly is going to provide a seal in the opening of the dash between the vent controller and the dash itself, so we don't get a lot of like air blowing through there. I don't know how effective this is actually going to be, but this was originally on the car, so I'm replacing it. All right, so these rubber gaskets, so basically this slides over the vent, stretch it on over like that. And then I'm going to roll it backwards, like so. Put that on there and roll it back a little bit. And I'll do that for the other two sides as well. All right, so I've got all three rubber gaskets put in over the ends of the vent. And this looks to be the driver's side vent, because arm here faces towards the gas tank. This would be the driver's side front tire. This goes up into the vent under the dash, and this pipe connects to the vertical pipe that comes from the heater channel. And I just happen to have a junked pipe out of a junked car, and this will just give you an idea of what's doing here. This basically just slides in there like that. Then this rubber gasket gets rolled down over that, to form an impenetrable seal. We shall see. Okay, so there it is. I got the driver's side installed, and that was just kind of a pain in the neck because it's really a tight area, and folding those rubber sleeves over the pipes is really hard because it's really cramped in there. I can only really get one hand in at a time. So obviously if there was more space, it would be a simple thing to do, but this is just very cramped. Here's a tip. If your dash is apart, you can reach through the speedometer hole to help you get this in place. Otherwise, you'll have to go through the trunk to get your hand in there. But it's on there, and with those rubber sleeves in place, it's surprisingly a very tight fit. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm not worried about it falling off. So now I just need to install the passenger side. This is the view of the installed passenger side vent looking through the glove box opening. You can see the rubber sleeves are rolled down to hold it in place. And in the center bottom is a bracket coming up from the bottom of the trunk where the cable conduit will attach with one of the clamps I showed earlier. Again, you can see that this is a very tight, confined area. But now I'm ready for the vent control and cables. Okay, got my ventilation control. I wrapped it in bubble wrap so I don't scratch everything up. This thing is pretty long. I know I got it out when the car was taken apart. So this thing should go in. It's supposed to loop behind these posts. All right, maybe I can get it in this way through the glove box. Slide it this way. That's not gonna work either. This is obviously not working, so let me check my workshop manual. Carefully insert ventilation control into instrument panel and secure. Sometimes the manual is no help at all, so you just have to employ some common sense. The copper conduit and wire are flexible enough for me to bend it to maneuver the whole thing into place. I loop it through the center towards the passenger side, bend the conduit enough so it fits around the other post so I can push the levers towards the driver's side. Okay, now I gotta remove this bubble wrap. Okay, it's really hard to see into this area. But, all right, so there's the conduit and the cable that fit in right there on the vent. And there's the opening for the vent control, and there's the vent control itself. So I just have to maneuver that into place and maneuver the cable into the lever. Okay, here I go. I'm gonna get this thing in. This will not beat me. It might beat me. The stud from the bottom of the vent control comes through the bottom of the dash and is held on with that acorn nut I showed you earlier. If you want to restore your car 100%, paint that nut body color. Hopefully no one will notice this oversight at the next car show. Because it's a dark, confined area, it was impossible to get a clear shot of installation. But basically, you need to have the wire inserted into the arm on the vent, but leave the bolt loose for now. Forward is the open position, so push your levers forward under the dash, then push the arms forward on the vent and secure the bolt. There are two areas where the conduit wire is clamped down. The first is on that bracket coming up from the bottom of the trunk on the right, and the other is on the left cowl support post. Tighten enough to hold the copper conduit in place, but not so tight that the cable inside won't move. All right, so one big takeaway from doing that is that it's really useful to have the speedometer and the clock out, and also to remove the glove box door and the glove box. That'll help you reach your arm inside and you'll be able to maneuver in there because it's a really tight space, especially if your hood is on. So my car is all taken apart. It was really easy, or easier for me to get access, but it was still kind of a pain in the neck to roll those rubber sleeves down over the vents and the fixed pipes that are under the hood. We're jumping forward in time to a view of the car more put together, and you can see how much harder this would be to do with the wiring in place and the glove box blocking everything. The copper conduit has to go underneath the wiring, so definitely be careful not to knock your wires loose, and disconnect the battery so you don't cause an electrical short. Become a subscriber so you don't miss out on a single video from Pete's Ghias, your #1 source for Karmann Ghia DIY and restoration on YouTube, according to me.